our budget workshop. This is the third from last budget workshop. We will be advertising this to be approved at the first December meeting, which is Thursday, December 12th. And so I'm going to very quickly go through this because this is all the same stuff we've seen, and then we're going to get to the decisions page. And today we just need to make decisions. And I have a process that I think will work. So I'll talk about that when we get there. So this is just going to be a recap of the things we reviewed to get everybody back on the same page. These are the fund balances that we currently hold and the reserves. And so between the two general funds, we do have enough to meet the reserve, but we are talking about building up the actual general fund reserve next year. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. The road fund has more in it than it's required for the reserve, and we are moving some of that to pay for the C20 project. So that will change next year. And liquid fuels is very limited in how we're allowed to spend it, and we are going to attempt to spend it on something that I'll talk about in the meeting today. The sewer fund is fairly well funded, although after all of our projects this year and next, we'll probably be right at the reserve. So we'll want to pay close attention to that and possibly refurbish that. The bond fund is basically all but $150,000 is laid out and claimed. So there's not much left there. We're going to have to watch that closely next year I think we have budgeted $9.7 million in projects. The C20 was the October surprise that we've talked about the last two meetings. We have done, and Coletta, this is what I was mentioning to you, the other day. So essentially, when they do these applications, they do put in additional costs so that we are in good shape. So we were able to look. We're now looking at the design cost of $210,000. The estimated cost of inspections is $170,000, and it's important to note that Larry can probably carve off a significant portion of that. So we're going to look at him to help with that. We did pull out some construction costs by instead of paving the entire roads, we're going to just pave the trenches, which is what Alcosan wants us to do. And that's actually fine in the areas where we're doing it because they were recently paved. They're not old roads. They're not going to be perfect after the trench repair, but they're in much better shape than most. And then the ineligible cost, that 157 that you see there, that is the milling and paving that we are required to do as part of the project. And that is currently budgeted to come from the road fund next year. So it doesn't affect the bond fund budget, which is as I mentioned, is getting close. Now the borough responsibility, if you go down to the last part, is $880,000. And it's less than the total responsibility because we've already spent. So we've already spent $210,000 of that. I mentioned that we're taking this from the road fund. We have approximately 1.2 million after reserve is met this year. So we are budgeting the C20 separation project road work from that fund. And that I recommend that the additional, and this is the way it's budgeted currently, the additional funds are added to the general fund reserve to bring that back up to where it needs to be at 1.5 million or so. And then I'm recommending that we eliminate the road tax for 1 year to make that increase, to make that general fund increase. So the result of these proposed changes after this year or after 2025 will be a general fund with slightly less than it has in it now, but the general fund reserve will go back up to about 1.25 million. The road fund will be depleted down to 839,000, which is still overfunded, more than we need for the reserve because our annual budget is about 650,000. And so there's still a little bit of money in there that we might want to consider when we're dealing with like the Ewing Road stuff and other concerns. We do have a little bit additional money there. The sewer fund, as I mentioned, that'll be the most depleted, and that's what we really have to watch. The sewer fund is what's going to need built back up as well. I'm sorry, I mentioned the sewer fund. I meant the sewer reserve fund because we'll be basically right at the 20% and or right at the 3 month mark for for what the reserve is, and probably want to build that up. Okay, so we talked about this. We're going to talk about this more in the meeting because now we're examining this more closely. But this is the C20 green infrastructure work that might change. So I have it budgeted right now that Alcoasand would only offset about 225,000, and that we have to pay the balance of nearly 400,000. So we're assuming that at this point.
When do you think we'll know?
We'll probably know by the end of the year, because we have to apply by December 31st. And we could talk, that'll be discussed more in the meeting, but there's not going to be a perfect budget for this.
Yeah.
And we won't be able to, we just have to budget what we know at the time. And I did very conservatively so that we have room.
Okay.
The bond tracking sheet, I'm not going to go over at this point. The bond fund buffer is actually a little lower than this. It's actually closer to 150, because I realized that the conservatorship numbers were not in there the way they should have been. And then overall summary, of course, balanced budget, no tax increase, moving the road fund to the general fund for 1 year to accommodate the C20 project that we are legally required to do. Add $320,000 to the general fund reserve. And the way I have it written right now, this is not required, but this is my recommendation, is to complete all the O&M repair projects. So jumping from this, I'm going to hop into the actual budget document and the decisions page. So one of the two big places that we have that you can spend, that basically are going to be the deciders in how much money you have, whether we do paving next year, in addition to all the paving that we are already planned to do next year. So we will be doing Broadhead, Taylor, Warren, Belvedere, and a few others, as well as part of Duncan and Steuben. So we're doing a lot of paving next year. So I have it listed as 0. And the other big place that we might have additional funds if we decide to change things is this O&M repairs. Currently, 415,000 of this is old repairs. So I at least recommend we do that. And then we're only a year behind. But we can move that around. But so I think the best process would be to just go through each line, take a straw vote on whether you want it before we get to the big decisions like road and O&M, and see if we even need to pull any money out of those, or can we invest all of it in O&M repair, or is there something that we definitely want to do next year? So with that being said, I'm just going to go down the line. Tables for a community center. Can I get a straw vote on whether we want to do that or not do that? I mean, I guess I can say, do you agree with that? Yay or nay? I'll say, can I get a yay if we agree with that?
So, I mean, we should combine the chairs and tables, right? We don't want to just do one and not the other.
Yeah, it's probably makes sense.
I don't recall what they look like. Are they that bad?
They're these brown ones right here, and a lot of them have rips in them, and they're bent legs.
Oh, the vintage.
Yeah.
That's
It's coming back.
Yeah.
Do you have, I don't want to interrupt.
I was joking.
No, my only thought is, yes, I know they need updated. And I can see, I'm not jumping ahead, but there's even more under floor and windows.
Mhm.
Can we, if we do this, can we also then increase the rental fee? What, is that a domino effect?
If we do all of it, yeah, I would absolutely. And that's going to be an assessment at the next meeting. We'll talk about the fee resolution. I'm going to write a memo before the next meeting. So you'll have our recommendations for what fees change, but yes, definitely.
I mean, I think, yeah, it would be lovely, but I don't think it's high on the priority list of all the things that are going on. I mean, we had a recent meeting. There isn't right now rec board. We don't have a ton planned over there. Yes, there is a sprinkling of things, but if you add that all up, I mean, 12, 24, I can't do it. Like, I'm just shy of 30.
And we get about $8,000 a year in rentals.
I mean, my
Yeah,
thought
so
is,
even if we raise it, it's only gonna maybe raise $2,000.
Yep.
I know it's important and I don't want anyone in the community to be like, oh, I feel like next year just feels expensive and there might be bigger priorities than beautifying the community center.
I agree.
Cause we can always, at the end of the year, if we're looking good, we can always go back and do that, right? It's not like if we say no
You know
now.
what?
it's
Well,
not-
remember what you guys always ask, when I
Is it
ask
in the budget?
questions, is it in the budget?
Yeah,
And so I would say no, you would not, and
Okay.
so if you're gonna budget it, you need to budget it.
And, you know, you can put it in the 2026.
six,
Yeah,
Is it, we're saying no to both these?
I think so.
yeah, I'm
Okay.
saying,
Okay.
I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Okay, how about floor for the community center then and the window treatments?
yeah, I'd say all of it together, we would say.
Yep, okay,
Postpone that.
okay. How about admin and comm center carpet? We are gonna still try to get the library's carpet done this year. So that's on the budget for this year, and this is on the budget for this year too, but there's no way it's getting done. So if we wanna do it, we have to move it to the
What's on the
next.
budget for this year?
The admin and comm center carpet, so this carpet here, which is, I don't know if you've seen,
It's bad.
it's in bad shape.
If something's on the budget this year and we don't use it, it obviously doesn't roll over.
Nope, you gotta add it to the
Okay.
next budget.
Okay. Okay.
I feel like we should do the carpeting for the admin just because it's a very public place. I think we need to have a better face forward for when people else, when people come to visit our offices. That's my personal opinion.
How old is this current carpet?
I have no idea. Old,
And my next question is,
It's
when
the-
we get into the nitty gritty of it. It smells like HGTV, carpet versus like a non, like a laminate, like carpet gets dirty. it
oh, you
looks-
would not want a laminate in here.
I don't know,
because
I
of
don't know my
sound,
product.
Because of sound,
Okay,
because,
This is the only fiber we have.
yep,
okay.
I mean, you do have this roof as a sound dampening, but if you take out the carpet in here, it'll get echoey.
I didn't think that this was a community center. I guess I was thinking this is council chamber, so it's this carpet.
I said community center, I actually meant this carpet, the hallway and the,
Okay.
We were already planning for it this year. So it was approved last year for this year.
Yeah.
And then we had all these other projects we were working on. So I think last year we agreed to do it and we just delayed it. I'd be in favor of doing it this year because we agreed last year and it's a year old.
Yeah,
Is 15K accurate?
Yeah, it was, I think the exact estimate I got last year was 13.5.
Okay.
So,
I was gonna make a joke about, well, all the prices are gonna come down, so
Yeah.
it's gonna be $9.99. Well, maybe if the plan could be a slow chip away at beautifying, right? So we focus on these more commonly used spaces
Yeah.
next year, and then hopefully a goal could be the community center a year
Okay.
after.
okay. Awning for the Borough building, that is just an awning outside of and I think.
entrance, is that right?
Yeah, that back entrance, and this quote is probably high, it's probably more like 2,500. But
Will it have the new logo on
yes,
Ooh.
oh, well, if we did that,
or on the doors?
yeah, we could do that,
Little
yeah.
doors would be nice.
That's an outward facing thing that I think
Yeah,
Yeah.
doors would be nice.
would be
instead
more
of all-
important than a community center thing or whatever.
Yeah, and this is a nice thing just because you have so
People
many
have to
people,
wait to
thinks
get
that's the
back.
door that you have to stand under to wait,
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm good with that staying on there.
Okay. Admin restroom. This is redoing that awful 2 restrooms that are by I'm fine with not doing this. We basically just avoid it. We don't send anybody back there, so
But you can use
we
the,
use this one,
Yeah.
yeah, which I'm fine with.
It has the original tile. I love it.
I like it too. I'm with it.
I love the tile. Like, I will die on
Check
that.
it out.
it's just like, no.
You're gonna have to jackhammer to get it off. of
Oh,
the
no,
walls.
that's what I'm saying. As long as I'm in council, we're not having a tile. Great tile.
Great. Now I wish. Now I wish, yeah, great, wish I would have never shown you now.
and
Okay,
one thing-
police garage floor.
Oh,
So-
well, before were you gonna say something about the bathroom first?
well, not necessarily about the bath, but are the community center itself, is there grants available to be able to redo those things?
We can look into that, but it won't be
Yeah.
likelihood of it happening next year is unlikely. So yeah, we can absolutely.
Because I think that's public facing and you hear about a lot of them getting renovated. So
Yeah.
looking into a grant for the community center, full renovation of the community
Okay.
center would be something.
Yeah,
And, you know, our state reps also use those centers for
Right.
their demonstrations, so it'd be nice to have it refreshed.
be refreshed. Okay, yeah, we can definitely look into that. Now, the police garage.
Okay, so, when I was speaking to the chief, he said that, when the engineer was here, that the engineer said we can pull the car in to take a prisoner out.
No,
That's-
that's not what he said.
Oh, okay.
He said, do not drive on that.
Do not drive at all on
He
it?
said, do not drive on that. I
Right.
don't think that's, I mean, I was there, the engineer, when we asked, the engineers, in fact, that's when he was a very stoic and like
Right,
monotone.
right.
And then when we said, should you drive on it? He looked at us both and said, no. So-
Okay. Well, yeah, that's not what the chief told me, so I don't know. We do have to have a secure area to unload the 2 or 3 prisoners we might need to take in the course of a year.
Okay.
What's the holdup on the
Really.
estimate?
Well,
I think we've been waiting
The whole
2 months. for
hold
this.
up on.
yeah, well, that was, the structural engineer, who did the,
Yes.
assessment of it did not want to provide a very specific estimate because he said there's too many unknowns. I can only give you a range. Because when they start cutting into the building, they're not gonna know until they have done some of the work. So it could go to 80,000. There's no way to know until they actually start to do the work.
Should that be 80,000 on this decision sheet, then planning for the absolute worst?
Could be, yeah, we could switch it to that. We had talked about it and put in a middle
It's
estimate.
just- it's so frustrating because it's such a high dollar value for it's a critical but small need.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And, you know, we go spending 80,000 on fixing that so we can,
Is it secure if they pull up to the garage
no,
and let them,
no, that's what.
the garage door has to be closed?
Yes,
that's the idea behind it. When you have someone who's, you know, irate and upset and you don't know what their reaction is going to be, you want them in a locked space. So that they can't, and this was actually the reason that Forest Hills got this was the main driver behind Forest Hills getting a new borough building.
exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I mean, that whole facility down there is like so 50s.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely, I mean, boroughs have done it without a garage like that for years. I mean, we could make it work for a couple of years, but I mean, that's a decision that
Well,
we're
okay,
putting
so
on a brand
when
new
we
shoes
say
too.
make it work, what does that mean?
I mean,
That
they
they're
have
just
to,
gonna have to not have a
Exactly.
secure place.
exactly.
I
And they
have-
haven't had one for 3 months now,
Right.
but you know, that's,
Well, I don't know, they may be pulling it in if they have somebody, and I'm not sure that they've had anybody in the last few
Okay.
months.
yeah, I don't know.
Can they pull into the other garage?
Well, but then there's too much opportunity, because they have
I
to
mean,
go through
that's-
so many doors
I
to
mean,
get into the cell,
Also,
into
I
the
mean-
station.
so I feel like this is beating around the bush about the bigger conversation that eventually needs to happen, which
Right.
is what happened to the borough building? Is it something that we spend more money on and focus on and make it a working thing for the next 20, 30, 50 years? Or is it we get by for the next 5 or 10 with the idea that we're building up to save for a new borough? But I guess that's kind of a big part of this.
because that was gonna be my question, neglecting it, not doing it, not like neglecting that section of the building, that's gonna have a negative effect on the rest of the building eventually. Shouldn't it? I mean, it's all
Not
connected.
necessarily.
it's
Or no,
pretty-
not the way this is.
Yeah,
built.
it's kind of secluded off on its
Right.
own, and if we're not, we're not using it anymore, then we're not damaging it further, but. Cause that's what's damaging it. Cars pull in with salt on them, they drive in, and then salt drips off their warm cars. And then that's what leaks through the basement,
Right.
and that's what's happening. So if you're not using it anymore. They should at least slow the deterioration.
But that, yeah, I mean, to Jim, just stating that, I mean, I'm looking at, new carpet, new renovations there, like all these, like. Do we just keep improving what we have, or is there a bigger picture of like eventually, whatever
Well,
that, I mean, if I've never been in the police station, if it's pretty, I mean, so I just don't know. How much do you invest in a building that's lovely and old and,
So
Or-
here's, Yeah, I mean, those are bigger conversations and we can't have it the 11th hour for the whole building. But when you look at, things like carpeting and that, we're not, no matter what happens, we're gonna be here for a few more years.
Yeah.
There's a kind of a different conversation that could potentially be had, and that is there someplace else to locate the police department? There is nothing that says it has to be in this building. And so that might be like an interim thing, or, I mean, as a matter of fact, one of our officers during the interview was talking about substation. I'm not sure that that's but locate someplace more central. I mean, I really hate to see us spending this kind of money on that space for such a small reason.
Yeah.
And I would really recommend taking it off the budget and just start looking and talking about other alternatives.
Just out of curiosity, what does our force think, the policemen? Have they had an opinion on this?
I've talked to the chief about it. I don't know. We have not asked every single officer about it.
I'll take it off for now,
Okay,
and then let's go through the rest of it
Yeah.
okay,
and see where we're at.
all right.
Okay. Now we're getting into well, before we do paving, let's move down to the pool. So the warranty is not gonna fix the pool liner issues. They claim it's an installation issue. And yeah, of course, everybody points the finger at somebody else. And I don't have a good estimate for how much it will cost Larry, and we just got the response from them earlier this week, so we haven't had time to get an estimate. And frankly, I don't know if we can get one right now because the pool is still, it's not in the, you need to do this in the spring when you're opening it all back up and testing stuff. But 20,000 is a really conservative estimate, and meaning that it's probably a lot higher than what it actually is. Unless we have to completely replace the liner for the splash pad, which is possible because that's not in great shape. But repair that 20,000 estimate will easily cover our guess is that it'll cover what issues we're having there.
If we did have a splash pad, do we have an idea what the cost of that would be?
I don't know, but I think that we assume that the repairs to the pool are probably gonna be around 5,000 to 7,000. The splash pad, if it needs to be replaced, will be 15 probably. So that's why we did that high of an estimate.
Being that it's not covered under warranty whatsoever, like if we waited a year, what's gonna happen? What's it gonna do further?
Probably just get a little more bubbles, probably not worse for the pool. As far as the splash pad, I'm not entirely sure.
If we're paying completely out of pocket and it's just slightly more, it just gets a little worse, but it's not preventing the pool from being, it's not a danger or liability, right?
No, not that I know of.
And you mean, I'd say until we'd have a better estimate, I'd want to wait.
Okay.
I'm actually okay leaving that on there. I feel like that's one of our biggest commodities in the neighborhood and I'd like to keep it healthy.
Well, just so you know, with the changes we've made already, we have $62,000 additional to look at. With the changes we've already made.
Yeah.
We're not done looking.
Yeah.
Nope. So okay, so do we want to
Can we
do,
just, come back to that one then?
yep. What about cover for concession customers? So this is basically, we've had several requests. They've actually put a tent there in the past, but it's not great to put a tent there. This is just like an awning for the concession stand customers.
That's another one I'd like to come back to at the very end and see how much of a surplus we
Lots of
have.
Things to come back to.
Okay.
To look at, but
Not a bad
there you
thing.
Yep, we're getting close, so that's okay. So the new code enforcement car, this is basically buying them an electric vehicle. We've already looked into, we can get a Chevy Volt for or a used Chevy Volt with 20,000 miles for like 17 or 18,000. So that's what this is for. That car is very long in the tooth and needs to be replaced.
What year is the car?
It is a 2011. So
I don't have a strong feeling on this because I've never seen the car and I don't know how much the car gets used, so
It gets used, it is constantly used.
Yeah.
It's used daily. She probably drives as much as a police officer around the borough doing, checking on properties and whatnot.
Or would we first try to sell it to, or give it back, but that would be de minimis, probably $1,000.
We'll probably get 5,000 out of
Yeah.
the current vehicle, because it is a Ford Interceptor, so it's sought after.
Oh, okay, so then it could,
have an awning.
yeah.
Go
Okay.
back to the pool.
You had it in there as a yes.
I have it in there currently as a yes, but it's up.
So it's right now 15 years old? Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be 15 years old.
Yeah.
Did we get it in 2011?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was new at the time. And now we're gonna purchase a used one,
With less than 20,000 miles.
right?
Yeah.
I don't think that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
To do that. And it's probably a safety issue. I'm assuming that there's gonna be safety and maintenance issues that are gonna come because of just being over time.
Yeah.
The engine, transmission.
You're gonna.
Transmission is slipping right now, so.
Oh.
Apparatus on a newer car that you have on to.
Mhm.
I don't have an electric car, those easy to repair and fix when things go.
They're cheaper
Okay.
significantly.
How are we charging the car?
We can do a trickle charge in this. We wouldn't even need a 2 volt 40 because it's such a small. But we could also, we would get a 220 line in the garage, but we'd have to add a 220 line. I think it's only like a couple $100 worth of cable at this point because of how close, the electrical supply is in the garage.
Gotcha.
The car would drive only during the day, then it would charge all night, because
Exactly.
nobody would be driving it at
Exactly.
night or weekends, so.
Exactly. I don't even think you'll need one because with a trickle charge,
Right.
especially all weekend, it'll be fully charged at the beginning of the week.
And-
And it has like a range of 250 miles, which she's never, it's unlikely that she's ever
Right.
gonna do that.
Okay, I'm okay with the yes on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm all right with that.
All right, the park decisions, dog park we have in there for 25, and that is an estimate based on the fence at the pool. So the fence at the pool would have cost $20,000 or $30,000 to replace. And so that's a pretty big dog park. So, right, so I just put that in there because that's essentially what it is a fence, but we have no idea where we're gonna put it yet, so I can't get an estimate a real estimate until we have a location. So this is just kind of a placeholder at this point. We could get DCNR grants. If you notice, I took all the other pool decisions that we are looking for DCNR grants for. So that could go into that as well, but you would still need to budget it if you're going to, if you're gonna do it next year, but
Right, I mean, if you're gonna apply for a grant, you're gonna apply for it next year.
yeah, so you won't get it
do
until.
Until the next year.
Yeah, I feel like we chatted briefly about this before and it just felt, I mean, I'll say honestly, if you don't like pets, I don't know what's wrong with you, who doesn't love dogs? But it just feels like it hasn't even been. Where, there's so many questions, where is it gonna be, what's it gonna look like, how, and so I don't know if. Could that be again, like, that could be next year's planning
Yeah,
commission or whoever, like, figure out the who's, the what's, the whys, and then
Especially-
2026.
Yeah, especially if we're gonna take the time to apply for grants.
Yeah, so I just wonder, I mean, I love the idea, I think, I mean, I don't even have a dog, but I think it's great, but it just feels like we're not ready to do anything with the money next year.
And
Yeah.
remember that we have two other parks that we're also talking about, which
Yep.
is Linwood and Noble. Which lots of decisions still have to be made on those two parks, and that's a cost of 250 for the full amount. You know, if we're going forward with that, so. I think, we also have the Broadhead project and C20, do we need to focus on this one right now?
I'm okay waiting here.
250, God, you could build a dog park in one of the other parks.
No,
Ten
they're not
dog
big
parks.
enough. They're not big enough.
Man, knock one down.
You
Dog
can
park.
ride dogs, you can ride people's dogs around, the little kids.
Maybe
We're
some
doing
of our
that.
weekend lives,
Yeah.
but.
What about the, okay.
So
What-
I can say, we've heard a lot of people want the dog park,
Yep,
but if we were able to like start out planning.
Yes.
with Larry, the
Yep.
designs, locate.
Right, and start the
next year
grant search and all of
grant
that.
Search.
yep.
Sure.
And there is, one of the reasons that I've been pushing to wait was when the C20 project was going through all its iterations. for a while there, we were gonna put big tanks in the park. We, remember, we had all these different projects that we were
Right.
considering for the park. Now those are off the table, it looks like, so we can have a more focused
Yeah.
approach on what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about the bocce ball court in the park?
I feel like it's the same. It feels like next year's all these big adult things and it seems like it'll be fun to have happy things to talk about and look forward to for 2026.
Okay, so the last three options then are these are the O and M repairs. And I don't have the breakdown where the 414,000 is, but there's essentially 414,000 in old repairs. And then the 186 are new repairs. So we can change and adjust this as needed. We can do the estimated cost as needed, but my hope is to at least do the 414 old repairs, but I would suggest if we knock all these out next year, the following year, then we should only have the previous year's repairs, which you could then hold off on too, if you want to do other projects. This would set us up, if we do all of these, this would set us up for being a clean slate in 2026 and possibly having more funding to go out for other grants and other things. That's
And
kind of my
people
thought.
will only hate us more for 1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do
I
we
wasn't
know-
say hate us, but I need to add to that, so.
Yeah.
maybe next year will be the only year they're super mad at us and it'll go
Yeah.
down after next year.
Well, that's not great for some of us.
I know.
Here's the thing with these are, if we're noticing, we're having gas line repairs, water line repairs, lots of things, infrastructure things happening right now in the community. And I'm afraid we've all learned the Johnson Street issue, which was put off for many years. And then that became, thousands of dollars of money that we had to spend. Like, this is, given our infrastructure and how old the community is, these are repairs to the pipes that are 100 years old. And I think, we have to tackle them now, because what will happen is one will collapse and then we'll have the emergency crews trying to fix it, or people they'll have issues in their home.
I think we bite the bullet.
Yeah, and
I agree.
do we know, sorry, Vince, hold on to that question. Do we know where are they going to be on any of the streets that are already in
That's
the
a-
work and all the stuff? So it's like.
They're all,
Okay,
yeah,
Okay.
and there is a possibility, we have not done that examination yet.
Okay.
But that is something that would put you in better shape the next year.
but that is something, if we do this, when they're doing all these projects, that is something that whether it's Larry or whoever is like, hey, like there are 4 things on this street.
Yeah.
And we're doing all of these things, like that
We will
should
absolutely,
be,
we did
okay,
that for Starrett. In fact, that's how we were able to get $27,000 to do Starrett.
Okay.
So yes, we will absolutely look into that. And that is one thing that we're aiming to do with the paving project moving forward as well, which is having that 5 years laid out so that we can tell all the utilities, these are the next 5 years
Yeah.
of paving projects that
Smart.
we're gonna do, or ideally, this is what we
Okay.
would do. So if we stick where we're at, we have $92,000 to play with this in this budget, or put further in the reserve, or spend on some of those other items that we've said no to.
So I want strong investment in brick streets.
Okay. So right now I have 50,000. Do you want to do? What do you suggest 142,000?
Yeah, I would say brick streets are one of our biggest complaints, that they're falling in disrepair every year, they're getting worse. We need to start putting money towards this because it's expensive. So I would highly suggest putting a nice chunk towards the brick streets.
So can I then suggest that I have a deeper conversation with the police department before we make that decision, that would be where you put it, if we can hold
Okay.
off on the police garage?
Okay.
Well, then I would take the 80 out of the 600 and push off some projects to later. I mean, we can't keep just pushing out the brick streets.
do we know what streets are, I mean, I know we've talked about it and I know we've got the other
We
study.
have not done an assessment, and we don't know what streets should be saved.
Yeah.
What streets shouldn't. be.
Yeah, and I would just be curious how do you, I don't know the right word. How do you determine or assess which is the worst street? So my street division, it's brick and it's got the waves, but I don't know, is that super bad? I
The
mean,
biggest, there are criteria that thankfully, this has been done before.
Uh-huh.
PennDOT basically did a study for Mount Lebanon. And we can reach out, and I haven't done this yet, this is on my list to do, is reach out to PennDOT and see if they do a study for us. And it might be, you know, we'd have to pay for part of it, I don't know how much, but they would do that assessment. Right now, Larry has all the information, it's pretty involved, though. I mean, it requires walking every street, doing, you know, kind of really looking at, you wanna look at, does the curve of the road still exist? So is it actually shedding, stormwater the way it's supposed to? Or is it so out of whack that you'd have to repair the whole road?
Mm.
Or is it just spot repairs that will bring it back up? And basically, you need those assessments for
Yeah.
each road, to determine how you're gonna move forward. Some roads, you're gonna say, look, this road probably isn't worth the investment, but we're not gonna we're not gonna replace it now, we're just gonna keep fixing it, or, you know, keep managing it until it has to be replaced. You know, and those are all decisions that have to be made.
Yeah.
The only way to do that is really through a pretty
Yeah.
a pretty thorough assessment.
So I mean, if we can put more money towards the brick line, I wonder if we could see what that type of study would cost, and I don't know if it comes out of there, but like, I would be curious to
We
know,
could put it out there.
like, what roads are the ones that need fixed, and then could we plan on that? I mean,
So after Broadhead is done, there's gonna be like 3.5 miles of brick streets in the borough. And so we would have to go through that assessment before we can determine. There is more than $1 million worth of repairs, I can promise you that.
No, easily,
Yeah, so.
but I think we need to start somewhere and.
yeah,
So maybe it's the assessment
Yeah.
that's done for next year, because again, we're gonna have a lot of construction. We cannot have
yeah,
brick repairs on top of all the
Well, there are a
other.
couple of brick repairs that we've already gotten estimates for, like Middle and some others, so. It would be nice that on the really bad ones, on the ones that are, you know, that cars bottom out on, that we do a couple of those
Yeah.
next year, but that's my thought, but.
Vince, what do you think about focusing on the study?
I mean,
Is that a
study for
step?
sure, but there's also, I think, some areas that we can effectively fix. There are some pretty bad like divots in some of these,
Yeah.
like even if it's,
Is
I don't
that-
know, I don't want to see things get so bad where they're unrepairable.
Yeah.
I wanna. Every year that we push it off, more of these streets fall into disrepair.
So we could do, like, you know, you had mentioned maybe do we wanna take 50,000 out of the sewer budget, 550? So we're not quite, put that into the police budget, and then if you have a conversation with them and they're fine with foregoing it. For a year, or two, then we can put it back in, but I'll leave this at 142 now. Change this to, take out 50,000 out of this and put it in this budget for now. And then if you hear different, we'll change it, and then when we advertise the budget, we will make that change. But otherwise, we'll stick with this.
Does this still have the 92 going to the reserve?
No, I put it in the brick budget now, it's at 142 in the brick budget.
So
Do we need to put all of it in the brick budget?
Yeah.
Can we just put
I-
like 50 and
Yeah, we can,
go from
so
there?
this would be 100 then. Yep. So now there should be 42. Oh wait, why is it not? Oh, because the road budget isn't lined up, but there's 42 left then. At this point.
Okay.
Any thoughts on?
And if you may have already said it, but if the decision is it can hold for like another year, you would shift whatever balance back into brick.
No, I
No.
haven't shifted it yet. I was saying that for the police floor.
That's what I mean.
I would take it out of sewer and put it in brick and
Okay.
put it in this.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I think is fair. I mean, that leaves very few repairs that aren't getting done next year, so. Yep.
Are there any like? I hate to call it like beautification, but something that's like. Very outwardly seen by everyone, because when people are like, where are my tax dollars at work? And if we're doing a lot of stuff that's like. Repairs and infrastructure and underground things, those aren't as appreciated in the same way, and they're not something we can hang our hat on and be like, hey, we did a really good thing with your money. Like, it'd be nice to have like one or two things that are like. hey, it's a thing we did.
That's
Like
the
everything here is
carpeting
like
and the awning.
underground stuff.
Yeah.
The pool, under the thing.
We could throw the bocce ball back in there.
I mean, maybe something small, or maybe the awning at the pool too, like just something to show
Yeah.
that like we,
I
they're
thought we
low
did
ticket
leave
items,
awning
but we
in.
can.
We
can-
didn't.
I mean,
What
we
the
spent
hell?
millions on public works buildings,
So
so that's fun.
put the bocce ball court back in then?
But like,
We should go hang out down there.
I mean, someone needs to use it.
Is that what we're, so the bocce ball court back in?
we're looking for a
Actually,
new
I think
police
maybe
station. I'm
The,
just-
the cover for the concession, I think might be better than the
Yeah.
bocce
They're
ball,
huge.
personally.
Yeah, I feel like the bocce ball, it's just fun to say. I feel like it needs to be a part of the, like, the bigger picture with the park, like, you know,
Yeah.
things. Maybe it could be a part of Noble or whatever park you know, would. There's,
Or the $250,000.
yeah,
Okay,
And bocce courts.
logos on the balls.
so we're at 38,000.
Can't think so.
Was the bocce ball court thing, is that something that an outside contractor would be doing, or is that something that Public Works would be doing?
I think we need someone to build it. I don't know how, cause if we keep it where it is, it's gonna need, we're gonna need.
So we already have one.
Yeah, but it's in awful, I mean, it hasn't been used in years. It's right next to when you walk in the park, it's that box of spits.
Yeah.
It literally took over us. Yeah.
I think between the two, I like the cover for the concession stand more than the bocce ball. I think that's gonna be more used and appreciated.
Okay,
I would say anywhere where there's a door should be the new logo, like if, especially if it's like clear, like I don't know. I don't go to the pool, so I don't know what the doors look like, but. If it's a clear door, I think it should have a logo.
so we still have 38,000. Do we want to put that in reserve?
Yes,
I vote bricks, but
yeah. I like reserve. We don't know could happen.
All right, well, let's take a vote then, because we had disagreement. Who wants to put it in the brick budget? So
Can I ask one clarifying question? If it goes into reserve, give me an instance where we could like pull that money out. Like, what if a brick street is like, it's got to be fixed?
Yeah, I
could
mean,
you
if it's
just-
an emergency,
Yeah,
yeah, if it's an emergency repair, then you can do it. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Video.
or so it's either put the 42 in bricks or put the 42 in reserve. Who do I have yays for reserve?
Reserve.
yeah.
Oh, four. Okay, so we'll be in reserve.
Sorry, Vince, but we moved money into it.
yeah, I got some money for
You did.
bricks.
It's a very good
Win-win.
very
There's a
good
YouTube
compromise.
video out there we could use.
That was like the art of compromise. That was great.
Yep, that was good. Well, let me just do this real quick, so I have it.
When we turn the heat up, it's like,
Yeah.
Easy.
It was, you got it. It was warm.
Yes.
Yes, if we could turn it up. It was 60. I officially turned the 30 on today.
Okay.
That is
49 or 69. It was,
Like,
when I got in here, it was so.
vacation, like
It's
Miami.
It's like my kids are here.
So, it's a battle every day.
I turned my furnace on today. I couldn't get the chill out. It's like,
Yeah.
what's the temperature? It was like 60 degrees. I was like, okay.
is there anything else for the budget?
Nope.
Okay,
Um,
all right,
So-
we will close. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, so timeline wide on this, we're meeting before Thanksgiving for one more session.
with
That, for the plan for viewing and approving, like, it's Thanksgiving, before Thanksgiving, we have a meeting, another 6 o'clock.
Yep,
Okay.
and then we'll approve it, the following one.
I don't think. So.
Okay.
Okay, so we will close the budget meeting.